Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berhormat Senator Tengku Dato Sri Zafrul Abdul Aziz, Minister of Finance, Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Michael Yeo, Dato Sri Muhammad Iqbal Arthur, distinguished speakers and panelists, excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. Welcome to the Malaysian Economic Summit 2020. Our special thanks and gratitude go to Yang Berhormat Minister of Finance for gracing our event this morning, albeit virtually, in compliance with his quarantine order. We know, Yang Berhormat, how busy you are, given the upcoming Budget 2021 to be tabled in Parliament barely 3.5 weeks to go. Thank you, Yang Berhormat Tengku. Ladies and gentlemen, today's summit could not have come at a more crucial time as we confront the combination of a health and economic crisis head-on. To make matters worse, a wave of new COVID-19 infections has prolonged the uncertainties, with continued rise in unemployment and fiscal contraction in most nations, developed and underdeveloped alike. Efforts to contain COVID-19 in emerging and developing economies, including low-income economies with limited healthcare capacity, could precipitate deeper and longer recessions, exacerbating a multi-decade trend of slowing potential and productivity growth. The OECD estimates that a second wave could result in the decline of global GDP by more than 7.5% and some 40 million people losing their jobs. Despite the current optimism in stock markets, uncertainty about COVID-19 remains pervasive. The coming months will give us an indication about the shape of the global recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, we must admit that none of us saw this global pandemic coming. But Alhamdulillah, Malaysia has entered into this pandemic from a position of strength. Solid fundamentals built over the years have accorded us some resilience to deal with such shocks on several counts. I think firstly, our healthcare system has demonstrated robustness and resilience during this crisis. Second, our diversified sources of growth and external trade structure has helped mitigate domestic and external developments. Third, the continued presence of domestic and institutional investors, as well as our deep and liquid financial markets, remain supportive of an orderly financial market condition and of businesses. And the multi-pronged approach by the government, by Negara Malaysia, the Securities Commission, and the private sector in responding concertedly and swiftly have helped us endure and recover to some extent from the economic impact of COVID-19. The signs have been positive. Key indicators such as wholesale and retail trade, industrial production and exports have rebounded significantly since the economy resumed partially in early May, and the start of the recovery MCO effective from 10th of June this year. Based on the numbers from the Department of Statistics, the year-on-year June GDP estimates show that the contraction of 3.2% was far less severe compared to April's contraction of 28.6%. And Malaysia's external trade performance has generally improved and even registered positive growth in June and July, averaging almost 6%. And notably, whilst 2020 GDP is expected to contract by between 3.5% to 5.5%, there is consensus that growth in 2021 will be stronger, with Bank Negara projecting a range of between 5.5% to 8%, and World Bank projecting a GDP growth of between 6.3% and 6.5% for 2021. But are we really out of the woods yet? How strong and sustainable will the recovery be? Admittedly, the pace and strength of our recovery are still subjected to several downside risks. First, the global economic conditions remain weak, with the World Bank projecting global 2020 GDP to contract by some 5.2%. Secondly, global infection numbers continue to surge, and further waves of infections could lead to the reimposition of lockdowns or other containment measures. Third, weaknesses in our labor market conditions could weigh on private consumption. And the latest unemployment rate of 4.7% in July, although having improved from 5.3% in May, remains elevated. And fourth, the re-escalation of trade tensions between major economies could cause renewed disruption to trade and pose additional challenges to the global economy. Ladies and gentlemen, with the recession having significant effects on potential output, reforms that bolster long-term growth prospects would be essential. The latest RAM Business Confidence Survey has indicated that SMEs and micro businesses still need supportive policies to stay afloat, and as they continue to face short-term financial liquidity challenges amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Similarly, lackluster corporate earnings in recent years are now further weakened by the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. While the performance of public listed companies, or PLCs, had generally been on an uptrend between 2004 and 2015, PLCs have shown a decline in key profitability and several growth ratios thereafter. Catalysts are needed to help businesses emerge stronger and quicker from the COVID-19 crisis and be future ready, especially with intensifying competition globally. Fast action is also needed to ensure domestic companies remain competitive on a regional and global scale and become catalysts for Malaysia's transition towards becoming a developed market and high value-added, high-income economy. We need to relook and possibly replicate past successes, such as the GLC transformation program that was introduced in 2004. Over the 11 years period, the net profits of the 17 GLCs grew by 10.2% per annum from 9.9 billion ringgit to 26.2 billion ringgit, while their combined market capitalization grew 2.9 times from 134 billion ringgit to 386 billion ringgit. This represents total shareholder returns of 11.1% per annum. Now, other non-GLCs similarly performed well over the same period, as reflected in the improvement in the FBM KLCI from 907 to 1692, or a CAGR of 5.8% over that 11-year period. Perhaps a PLC transformation program covering areas such as KPI setting, talent development, and sustainability practices will help in developing robust businesses in our marketplace. Such reforms will not only aid the country's recovery, but will also deliver various positive outcomes that can drive greater market confidence in the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, in this time of crisis, we must remember that this crisis too shall eventually pass. As always, an economic downturn is followed by a rebound. How well and quickly we get through this depends on all of us here today, acting now and acting in concert together. I would like to take this opportunity again to thank the organizers, KSI and the Economic Club Kuala Lumpur, who have been instrumental in making sure the hard questions will be discussed during this event. Many thanks to our corporate partners, Bursa Malaysia, MUI Group, Macro Kiosk, Top Glove, and Siemens for their contributions to make this event happen. I'm very happy to see a very good turnout, notwithstanding the COVID-19 challenges. And obviously, we have this hybrid situation, physical presence here at Ritz-Carlton and virtually with all of you online. And again, our special and heartfelt thanks to Yang Berhormat Minister of Finance, Tengku, for gracing our summit this morning and for delivering the keynote address entitled Responding to the Economic and Financial Impact of COVID-19. To all of you, thank you for your presence, either physically or virtually, and we wish you a very productive session ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is now with great honor that I invite Yang Berhormat Senator Tengku Dato Sri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz, Minister of Finance Malaysia, to deliver the opening keynote address.
Yang berbahagia, Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar, Chairman of the Economic Economic Club Kuala Lumpur, and also the Chairman of Bursa Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Tan Sri Dr. Michael Yeo, President KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific. Yang berbahagia, Datuk Sri Muhammad Iqbal Muhammad, Chairman of the ECKL and Advisor of KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific. Excellencies, distinguished guests, speakers and guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers. It is a pleasure to be here virtually today at the Malaysian Economic Summit organized by KSI and the Economic Club of Kuala Lumpur. Do apologize for not being there. As what Tan Sri Abdul Wahid said earlier, I have to be in actually as a self-voluntary quarantine, just as a precaution and to be prudent, as I was in one of the meetings attended by one of the ministers. Anyway, back to the today's event. The summit's theme this year carries an extremely relevant question that is in the minds of every government leader, industry captain, as well as investor right now. The question is, where do we go from here? The timing is apt for participants of the Malaysian economy to come together and to strategize the way forward in the new environment that COVID-19 has brought upon us. I would like to also take this opportunity to share how the Malaysian government envisions to facilitate businesses in this new norm in order for our nation and the partners to collaborate and emerge stronger together. Ladies and gentlemen, a year ago, no one had expected how challenging 2020 would be. The coronavirus has infected over 37 million people globally. Billions have suffered the brunt of the economic shock as nations tighten their borders and socio-economic activity slowed down due to containment measures. In just mere months, the outbreak and our responses have drastically impacted the global supply chain, from products and materials to labor to even finance. This has focused us to revisit the century-old theme of globalization, which has long been a driver of economic growth for trading nations like Malaysia. Many governments and businesses have responded swiftly to the crisis. The IMF estimated that the governments all over the world have injected over $10 trillion to combat the pandemic and prevent further economic fallout. Still, over 150 countries are slated to face economic contraction this year, and some industries are impacted in ways that have redefined them forever. The world economy is experiencing a paradigm shift. Demands are changing, hence our operational strategies must transform too. We need to recalibrate our priorities in order to go through the prolonged uncertainties. In fact, we already charted direction to be more resilient against future shocks, the most obvious of which is the utilization of global technology, of digital technologies. Digitalization of finance, commerce, and operations have accelerated as 3.9 billion people, or actually half of the world population, was forced to stay at home during global lockdowns. That was enforced across over 90 countries during the second quarter of this year. More needs to be done to turn Malaysia's situation around. The prudent management of COVID-19 outbreak has put us in a good stable to transition from economic recovery to its revitalization, represented by the upcoming budget 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, as part of the Malaysian government's or we call it 6R economic recovery strategy, our upcoming budget 2021 has a clear focus to revitalize the economy through three objectives. Firstly, we are committed to continue protecting lives and livelihood. Secondly, we have to build on the current recovery momentum, spurred by 305 billion ringgit economic stimulus packages under Prihatin, Penjana, and Kita Prihatin. These stimulus packages have cushioned the impact for people and businesses by adding over 3% to this year's GDP growth. And finally, the budget 2021 will underline a combination of business-friendly policies, prudent fiscal management, and effective transformation tools to build the nation's resilience against future economic shocks. This will put us in a better position to ride on the growth trajectory ahead. To the international business communities and our training partners, I would like to reiterate that Malaysia remains open for business. We have helped businesses maintain their operating capacity through initiatives such as the wage subsidy programs that have saved close to 2.6 million jobs, as well as technology adoption programs which help upgrade businesses, both large and small. We have seen signs of Malaysia's resilience during this challenging period. Despite the lockdown, our country has recorded positive FDI in second quarter, bringing total FDI to 696.5 billion ringgit as at the end of June 2020. This is complemented with 726 projects with proposed investments of 36.7 billion ringgit in the pipeline. The Malaysian economy is also expected to grow by up to 8% in 2021, representing one of the fastest economic growth among East Asian nations next year. This is a testament that Malaysia is a good platform for businesses to thrive in the region by investing and capitalizing on our potential growth story. Furthermore, we have seen Malaysian businesses in key sectors taking advantage of the opportunities brought about by the changing trends, including health products and equipment, electrical and electronic, fintech, as well as e-commerce. The country has also managed to create a healthy business environment, ranked 12 out of 190 economies by the World Bank. It is Doing Business 2020 report, gaining 3 spots from the previous year. We hope to maintain this trajectory to ensure continued economic recovery. Moving forward, Malaysia will play to its strength, just as how digitalization has been accelerated by the COVID-19 lockdowns. We will take this opportunity to move up the value chain, taking advantage of our strategic geographical location, agile workforce, prudent management of resources, good infrastructure, and our leading reputation in key sectors, including Islamic finance and the halal economy. So, ladies and gentlemen, as long as the COVID-19 vaccine is not commercially available, the pandemic remains a threat to our socio-economic recovery, development, and also future growth. And the upcoming budget 2021 is an opportune time for the government to consider and adopt more sustainable ways to grow the economy and build our future resiliency. Budget 2021 measures will be established based on 4 key principles. Firstly, caring for the people. For example, the government will focus on addressing income contraction, income disparity, high-value job creation, and also the digital divide of the vulnerable groups. Secondly, steering the economy, which include enhancing human capital development on TVET and upskilling, public-private partnership to boost knowledge transfer and innovation. Thirdly, sustainable living, where we will consider principles of the circular economy, touching on areas of sustainable production, consumption, conserving natural resources, business, and also social sustainability. And finally, enhancing public service delivery through data and digitalization to improve efficiency of execution, as well as through greater collaboration with civil society, NGOs, and agencies, including GLCs and JLICs. One of the government's top priorities is to attract quality investments that will add value to the nation's economy, facilitate technology transfer, and allow Malaysia to transition towards a high-income economy. This entails high-impact priority investments and innovations to bring about higher value jobs with more extensive forward and backward linkages. I would like to emphasize that ensuring greater competitiveness is central to the government's investment promotion strategy. Several key strategies have been introduced by the government, which includes, firstly, ensuring well-established ecosystem for the E&E sector. These include ensuring a robust talent pipeline, supporting infrastructure and continuous support for technological upgrading and labor upskilling. Secondly, greater focus towards accelerating transition to a digital economy, particularly in the area of improving infrastructure for investments nationwide. This includes initiatives such as the National Digital Network, or JINDELA, and the National Digital Identity. Thirdly, investment tax incentives, which is already announced under Penjana for companies relocating to Malaysia. Fourthly, strengthening investor and ancillary services to facilitate investments under Penjana, such as establishing the Project Acceleration and Coordination Unit, or PACU, as well as 2-day approval time for manufacturing licenses for non-sensitive industries. The COVID-19 episode has also taught us the importance of tracking our progress and execution. Our Prihatin and Penjana stimulus packages were implemented under the purview of our implementation unit called Laksana. The data-driven approach has allowed us to improve our measures and implementation, and this should be the way forward in other aspects of nation building as well, including the measures under Budget 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now go back to the heart of today's discussion, which is the aftermath of COVID-19. So where do we go from here? Research shows that much needs to be done. Some countries are seeing 40% of jobs lost in the pandemic to remain unavailable for the years to come, which could undermine the economy if not addressed properly. While there are external factors that we cannot control, there are internal factors that we can facilitate and which will determine our success. For the government, the focus is clear. We will continue to support businesses, including SMEs and mid-tier companies in key sectors that are still reeling from the impact of the pandemic, and to ensure a stable and conducive environment for investments to come in and generate value-added returns. The government will also play its role in upgrading the gig economy, which is fast becoming an integral part of the nation's growth, and to transform the traditional sectors as well as to streamline the supply and demand in the job market. However, we cannot do this alone. The ecosystem requires the support of businesses, financial institutions, and other participants of the Malaysian economy to help us to get where we want to be. The ecosystem also warrants greater regional collaboration with our trading partners. In the current climate, Southeast Asia could become a preferred investment destination as businesses relocate due to global trade uncertainties. As I have stated in the recent APEC Finance Ministers meeting, it is critical to share key learnings and ideas from the recent pandemic to further develop our respective economies and to streamline our development efforts in finance, globalization, and infrastructure, to increase the regional competitiveness and face the headwinds as a united front. Ladies and gentlemen, the government invites each of us to play our role to revitalize and reform the economy. At the same time, we hope that Malaysians will remain steadfast, disciplined, and diligent in braving the current challenges. I'm very hopeful, given how Malaysians have shown the will to build a better society and have demonstrated it admirably during the nation's toughest months. So movements such as Kita Jaga Kita have witnessed Malaysians, young and old, coming together with NGOs, businesses, and corporations to help fellow Malaysians, be it donations for frontliners or providing food for the vulnerable segments of the society. The Malaysian spirit of unity in diversity shine bright. For the Malaysian industry leaders, again, I call for your support. Let's collaborate to push Malaysia forward and to take this opportunity to do things better in order for us to emerge from the crisis even stronger together. On another note, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Tan Sri Dr. Michael Yeo and his team for continuously bringing together successful conferences such as today, where we can contribute new ideas, strategies, and formulas to the business community, not just in Malaysia, but all over the world. I would also like to extend my gratitude to Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar and the ECKL Exco for their work towards encouraging discussions on economic issues as well as social and developmental issues. This has served as a bridge between the public and private sectors in deliberating on such issues. With that, I look forward to a fruitful and meaningful summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Tengku, for giving us a very insightful and informative opening keynote address this morning. We certainly look forward to the implementation of the various initiatives mentioned to revitalize the Malaysian economy. Our hopes and prayers are with you and your family for sustained health and safety during these difficult times. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we will now be having a special Q&A session together with YB Senator Tengku Dato Sri Zafrul, which will be moderated by Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over the floor back to Tan Sri Wahid.
Well, thank you, Vern. Yang Berhormat Minister, thank you so much for your insightful keynote address, and thank you for agreeing to take a few questions. So we have syndicated some of the questions from the public, and we have three particular questions which I would like to pick. If I may, the first question, Yang Berhormat, is in respect of optimizing government's development expenditure. Through public-private partnerships based on user pay concept like toll roads, highways are effective in optimizing the government's development expenditure. Does the government still believe in this? And is the government proceeding with the selective toll reduction program as proposed previously? Now, obviously, from the investment committee, the fear is that subsidizing tolls for existing roads will effectively reduce viability of future essential highways, such as the southern alignment of the West Coast Expressways that will link Banting, KLIA down to Port Dickson, Malacca, Muar, Batu Pahat, and Pontian. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri, for that question. For development projects which requires high capital outlays, our belief, the government feels that the model will still be the preferred option for today, especially as you mentioned, Tan Sri, on the highways. So on the highways, we are actually in the midst of studying what will be the best approach to ensure the rakyat will benefit from such agreements in the future, so that the government will not be burdened by the extended reimbursements. There's a committee that's been set, Minister of Works and also Minister of Economy and myself are now deliberating on this issue, which will then present to the Cabinet soon. But notwithstanding that, the government, we have decided that we'll continue to fulfill our commitment on the 18% discount on the Plus Highway. So in short, I think projects, especially developmental projects, must, and those that require high capital outlay will definitely require PPP model as a preferred option.
Thank you, YB. The second question is on EIS top-up and so on. So this is from Jonathan. Would government consider steps to consolidate the existing direct crisis response programs, especially the Perenjana handouts, wages replacement schemes, and the EIS top-up into an automatic stabilizer similar to the short-term work replacement scheme in Eurozone countries? the view is that this will cut down the time between the loss of income and confidence and receiving the funds. And secondly, it will streamline administration across a multitude of social safety nets.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan, for that question. At the moment, we are looking at consolidating all of the cash assistance that the government has provided for the Rakyat. We are also in discussions with the relevant stakeholders, such as SOCSO, on how we can improve the wage subsidy further. All this